Welcome back to more Just Know Mother-in-Law stories. These stories were posted by members of our community and are read specifically with permission from the author. And by the way, since I'm not sure when this video will be published, I just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and once again thank you so much for supporting me the last couple of weeks. These were tough times indeed, but I think we as a community are even stronger than before. Without any further ado, let's dive right in. It's only your wedding photos. No one will care what they look like. A little background: my hubby and I have been together since I was 17. We were in no hurry to get married, but because we were living together after we both graduated high school, his mother began pressuring us about not living in the sin. Yeah, she's that kind of Catholic. Anyway, we eventually set a date for October of the year I turned 20. We thought mother-in-law would be thrilled, but it soon became clear she was not. It did not really manifest right away, but little setbacks began to clue me in on how she really felt. First, she offered to pay for our invitations, but 3 months before the wedding, she decided that I should not have more than 50 to 20 people at the wedding. Total. Please note, that would have only included his immediate family and no one from mine. Never mind our friends. When I would not cave on the number of people, she rescinded her offer, but said she would pay for a photographer instead. I thought, okay, no big deal. That is probably better anyway, because photographers are expensive and I can hand make my invites. Oh, how foolish I was. See, as I mentioned, mother-in-law is super Catholic and she made it known that my Christian baptism did not count in the eyes of her church. And as a result, should we hold the ceremony there, I would be excluded from taking communion and or being blessed in my own union. The F? So I had planned on having my uncle, an ordained minister, marry us in his church instead. It's only an hour outside of our hometown, so it would be easy for everyone to attend the wedding. That is when mother-in-law informs me a month before the wedding that her photographer won't leave the city, even to do the weddings. So now I have to find a last-minute replacement. So I did. It cost me nearly $1,000 and the new photographer agreed to drive to the location to do our photos. So everything is settled, right? Right? Well, as it turns out, no. No, it's not. See, we, my then fiancé and I, had been informed 2 months before our wedding. Is the short notice pattern becoming clear yet? That one of my future brother-in-laws was going to be joining the Marines and would be in boot camp on the day of our wedding, despite our date being set before he decided to enlist. Now, I was not upset. I get there are bigger things than my wedding. This was only 4 years after 9/11, so yeah. Anyway, we wished him the best and expressed mild disappointment that he would not be at the wedding. He apologized to us and all was good, I thought. Cue the day of my wedding. Due to various circumstances, my husband was 1.5 hours late. That is a story for another time. I only mention this because it sets the mood for the day itself. By the time the ceremony started and ended, I was wrung out, but I still had my game face on for pictures. That is when mother-in-law, who had been whispering to my photographer, pulls out a giant cardboard sign that says, "We miss you," brother-in-law's name, on it and starts insisting it be held in all of my photos. I'm like, wait, isn't this my day? He knew he was going to miss the ceremony. I'm paying for these photos. He knew our wedding date when he joined the military. Why does the sign need to be in all of them, or any of them for that matter? But I did want to be nice, so I only protest a little, not meanly or loudly, but I objected nonetheless. Mother-in-law responds with, "They are just your," emphasis on your, "wedding photos. No one is going to care what they look like." So I caved. That stupid sign is most of my photos. The photographer flat out refused to take every photo with it in. The kicker? None of my in-laws wanted copies of my wedding pictures, and the brother-in-law told me to my face he did not care about my photos and did not want to see them. This mother-in-law story was posted by Suko Ishikira in our own subreddit r/ripe stories. And I gotta say, this is not only a case of a just no mother-in-law, but potentially also a just no brother-in-law. But honestly guys, what would you do if someone essentially photobombs your wedding pictures? If I would have been in your shoes, OP, I would have freaked the F out. The Deadbeat and the Southern Granny, my almost just no mother-in-law story, a Ripe exclusive. This story is a Ripe exclusive and he has full permission to use it in a video. The cast is DB, Deadbeat, son's father, SG, Southern Granny, DB's mother. When I was 20, I met my son's father at church of all places. When we dated, I had no problem with his family, they invited me to family functions and I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with them. We dated a year when I became pregnant with my son and that is when things started going south. I was engaged to DB, but we never married. Once you get to the end of the story, you will know why. Some things Southern Granny did. Number 1, told DB that he did not have to marry me just because I was pregnant and told him that I got pregnant on purpose to trap him. Second, when the baby was born, SG exclaimed, "He looks nothing like DB, I bet that's not even his baby." I was a virgin when DB and I started dating. Third, insisted I stay with them. DB still lived with his parents after the baby was born so she could teach me how to be a proper mother. During that time, she refused to let me breastfeed because you don't know how much he's eating and you don't know when he's full. Maybe he stops eating when he is full. Fourth, I got no support from DB and went on public assistance so I could take care of the baby. Part of this was the state going after DB for child support. She told DB not to pay a penny until he got a paternity test because according to her, it was impossible that he could father a child. Surprise SG, it is his. Number 5, SG, Mr. SG and DB moved out of state thinking that would absolve DB of paying child support. Surprise, it did not. Number 6, SG sent letters to the state and county with excuses on why DB could not pay his child support. They got a letter back saying it did not matter, they would just add it to his balance each month and take it from his tax returns at the end of the year. I got a letter from SG saying if I was truly any kind of a Christian, I would not be asking for child support. I replied that if her son was truly any kind of a Christian, I would not have to. 7. DB would get minimum wage jobs, then quit when child support started being withheld from his paychecks. I would get a little bit of child support money here and there until my son was 15. The entire time the support order was only for $25 per week, based on DB's 1991 income, again minimum wage part-time jobs. With encouragement from a friend, I filed a petition to have the support increased since DS was now in high school and it was costing more for his care. DB shows up in court with a W-2 saying he only made $500 the previous year and of course a letter from SG saying how much he's needed at home to take care of her and Mr. SG and increasing child support would be too much of a hardship. DB then tells the judge that he wanted to sign off his parental rights. Judge asked if he was doing that to get out of paying support and the idiot admitted that he was told by a family member that if he had no rights he would not have to pay support. The judge took into account the support of DB's parents and that he lived rent-free as income and doubled the support order. Judge did not remove parental rights, but did remove visitations from the order since at his age my son could make the decision for himself if he wanted to have contact. By the way, before I forget to ask, OP mentioned that DB showed up in court with a W-2. If anyone knows what that is, please let me know in the comments because a quick Google search did not give me any information. Number 8, SG sent more letters to the state trying to get DB out of paying his support, got the same. It will continue to accumulate if it reaches $5,000 in arrears. They will petition for him to lose his driver's license. I got weekly checks for a few months. Number 9, son won an award at school, which was a big thing for him since he has a slight learning disability, tried to call to tell DB. SG got on the phone, told son that he was only calling to get information so I could take them to court again and hung up the phone. Son was devastated. SG died in 2007. We were not told and found out later while doing an online search after hearing a rumor that a cousin was killed in a gang fight. Right now, DB has 5 grandchildren and has no idea. He did finally catch up with the child support when my son was 21 years old. As far as I know, they are still living in the same location, but when my son tried to send a wedding announcement, it was marked "Return to sender" in DB's handwriting. Jesus Christ, thank you very much for posting the story, user RealFarfalAlfredo. This story was posted by user RealFarfalAlfredo. And I gotta say, thank you very much for posting the story, but quite frankly, this was one of the most infuriating Just No Mother-in-Law stories we have read so far. And just as you rightfully said in the story, what kind of true Christian would leave his family behind and not even pay child support? Anyway, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you very much, and now let's continue. Mother-in-law uses Christmas gift to ruin childhood wish. Posted by user Suko once again. When I was growing up, my mom had a brass kaleidoscope that a friend of hers had made while they were in college together. I've been fascinated with it for as long as I can remember and always wanted one of my own. Apparently, my husband told my mother-in-law this when she asked what to get me for Christmas. She usually gets me a gift card to a bookstore, but she decided last year needed to be different. So she got me one with the help of my sister-in-law. It was beautiful, not like my mom's of course, but gorgeous. It was brass looking and had a leather-bound handle. I could not believe it. I was thrilled. Trying not to cry from sheer joy, I turned to her and thanked her profusely. She smiled really big in return and responded with, "Well, no offense, but it's not like I was going to spend a lot of money on you anyway." I was crushed. I would not have cared if it was a plastic toy from the dollar store. Just the fact that someone got me a kaleidoscope was amazing to me, or it had been. Now my joy was dead. I did not know what to say, so I put it back in the shoebox she had wrapped it in and tucked it under my seat until the end of the night. I cried on the way home. I have not touched it since that day, and I don't plan on going with my husband to see my in-laws for the holiday this year. I don't want anything from her ever again. Honestly, I don't even get that. Why would you give someone a present in the first place and then make such a remark? Honestly, in my opinion, not going to your in-laws for the holiday this year is probably the best decision you could have made. And by the way guys, I'm curious, what was the worst present that you have ever received? If you ask me, a present does not have to be expensive, but it needs to show that you put some effort/thought into it. Otherwise, in my opinion, giving presents is kind of meaningless. Anyway, let's continue. My Just No Mother-in-Law almost wound up arrested on my wedding day. So my husband and I have been friends since 2009, dating since 2012, and we married in 2016. My Just No Mother-in-Law is an alcoholic. I did not know how bad until after we married. She started drinking early into our reception and drank the whole 3-hour-ish party. Granted, she paid for the bar venue, she picked it, but still. During the party, she was hysterically crying because my only child is married, resulting in other people consoling her and making her the center of attention at our wedding party. At this point, neither my husband nor I drive, so after the party we load into in-law's car, father-in-law gets in the driver's seat. We also have our small children with us. Yes, kids before marriage, Karen, I'm going to hell anyways. Just No Mother-in-Law begins pouting and bickering about, "Why can't I drive? I want to drive." In the 10-minute drive to our apartment, she elevates to screaming. My husband collects the kids and car seats and tries to scoot me in the house. He did not get me in before Just No Mother-in-Law begins full-blown tantruming. She winds up screaming loud enough for everyone to hear, "Fine, F you, I will walk home." Father-in-law follows her and tries to get her in the car. She refuses and runs, drunk as F, through yards and shit. Someone calls the cops as she is stumble running. The cops and father-in-law catch up with her at the same time. He takes her home and put her to bed. The cops gave them a warning about public intoxication. We walk on eggshells around her all the time because she is still a raging alcoholic. We have to live with them due to a housing crisis. It is awful, I don't need advice, there's nothing to advise, but I needed to share. Honestly, I feel so sorry for you that you have to deal with this woman on a daily basis, but I gotta say I'm kind of intrigued by the fact that you guys allowed her to pick the bar venue. No offense, but I'm not sure if I would have done that. But either way, thank you for posting the story, and now let's move on. The next stories are gonna be from r/today I effed up and are also concerned with mother-in-law content. Today I effed up by teaching my baby sign language. I go to this mommy and me thing every week with my daughter. Not because it's my kind of thing, but because my mother-in-law paid the membership for a year as a Christmas gift to my 1-year-old, aka she does not think I am socializing her grandchild enough, and this was her way of passive-aggressive correcting my parenting. Anyways, we go to this thing every week for an hour and all the Pinterest moms are planning themed birthday parties and discussing screen time and sharing gluten-free recipes while their kids stare at each other. But all these kids know sign language and I thought that was pretty damn cool. So I start looking into this and try teaching my kid some basic signs for basic needs. And it is working. Suddenly, my tiny human who otherwise could not effectively communicate with me knows how to say more and all done and drink. She can call me mom and my husband dad. Holy crap. Thanks Pinterest moms, I take back all the shit I talked about you to my kid on our weekly drives home. Well, today with my husband out of town, I did not feel much like cooking, and since my daughter is pretty laid back at restaurants, I decided to go out for a quick dinner. The kid loves French fries and so do I. So we hit the local burger joint and I order a beer, a burger with fries and a side of fruit. The server brings a little styrofoam cup with a lid and a straw filled with water for my daughter, and I set it out of her reach so she does not Hulk smash the styrofoam and make a mess. So, of course, every time she wants some, she signs drink, and every time she wants my attention, she signs dad, because apparently the slightly different sign for mom is not as fun for her. Okay, whatever. Well, I notice a couple tables away, there are a couple of women who are also signing to each other, but they are looking over at us and snickering. I'm like, okay, I did like 4 quick Google searches, maybe I botched some of what I taught her. It's fine. But then as the women are leaving, they stop by our table and one of them lays her iPhone down with a message typed out for me to read. It says something to the effect of, "She's calling you dumb and telling you she wants to drink alcohol." I'm like, wait, what? So she continues to show me that I have in fact taught my daughter the wrong signs, that there are different signs for drink, non-alcoholic beverage, and drink alcohol, and by balling her first up instead of using a flat hand at her forehead, my daughter has been calling me dumb instead of dad, which was already wrong, obviously, since I am her mom. I can only imagine what the Pinterest moms would have done had I shown up next week with my kid asking to drink liquor. Okay, actually that turned out different than I expected. I just expected the kid to like raise her middle finger, but to be honest, this is even better. I'm curious, are any of my ripe stars able to communicate in sign language? I think I once tried to learn sign language maybe 5 years ago, but damn, that stuff is really not easy. Today I effed up by stripping down and sexually confronting my father-in-law. So this happened about an hour ago and I'm just sitting in at a cafe trying to stop cringing in embarrassment. I am on vacation with my wife and her family and we arrived at the hotel today, checked in and settled into our rooms. A while later, a few of us headed out to explore. I went and met up with a friend who lived in the area and ended up having a few drinks. Earlier, while I was out, I had got a text from my wife saying that she was switching our room with her parents as ours had a balcony while theirs did not, which her dad wanted so he could smoke, and that she was going out for dinner with her mom. Anyway, I saw it, said okay fine, agreed to switch keycards with him once I got back. A few hours later I was a bit drunk and my friend dropped me back to the hotel. The text had completely slipped my mind and so I headed to the room with the balcony where her parents were staying and, thinking it was ours, went right in. As I went in, I heard the shower running in the bathroom and, feeling promiscuous, I decided to give who I thought was my wife in the shower a little surprise. So I stripped down, completely naked, and, seeing that the door was slightly ajar, decided to barge in. So I did while also announcing quite loudly, "Daddy's home." The sight that lay before me is one that will be stuck in my mind forever. My father-in-law naked in the shower, looking at in a mixture of disbelief, confusion and mostly anger. I froze, and for a second we just stood there in silence, which was soon broken by him shouting, "What the F?" my name. At this point my flight response kicked in, and as fast as I could rushed out, dressed faster than I ever have before in my life, and ran out the room. Since I don't have the keycard for the other room and sure as hell am not going back to ask for it, I'm now sitting at this cafe outside the hotel. I'm waiting for my wife to get back from her dinner, as I don't really think I can explain what just happened over the phone if I can explain it without dying of embarrassment at all. So yeah, the family brunch tomorrow should be interesting. Actually, I forgot to mention this was a father-in-law, not a mother-in-law story, but it was just too epic to not read it. The next story is gonna be from r/am I the a-hole, and the story is titled "Am I the a-hole for telling my wife and in-laws to F off after they told me to stop cuddling my daughter? I have 3 kids, 15 female, 12 female and 7 male. My oldest has always been a cuddler, and that suits me fine because I am 2. Recently my in-laws were over and we were all watching a movie together. It was a kids movie, and so my 15-year-old was bored out of her mind and tired, so she started to snuggle up to me and go to sleep. After the movie was over, we sent all the kids to bed/their rooms and got chatting for a bit longer. There was a fair bit of wine involved, I was sober though, and eventually after a short silence my father-in-law let it drop that he thought it was inappropriate that I still cuddled with my 15-year-old. I don't really know why he brought it up suddenly, but I was prepared to laugh it off and just assumed it was the alcohol. To my surprise, my wife and mother-in-law both agreed with him. I have a lot of respect for my in-laws, I get along with them great and I consider them closer than my own parents. Obviously, I'm quite fond of my wife as well, but I outright told them to F off and go F themselves, and then left them and went to bed. I have never spoken to any of them like that before, but it felt like the right thing to say in the moment. They all want me to apologize for being so rude to them. Am I the a-hole? And guys, now it's your chance in the comments to say whether or not the writer of the story is the a-hole or not. Basically, would you agree that it is inappropriate for OP to cuddle with his 15-year-old daughter? I gotta say, I'm kind of conflicted on this, but it's certainly a little bit weird maybe. Anyway, let us know your opinion in the comments. The next story is from the same subreddit and is titled "Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she cannot control how I act in my home? My mother-in-law moved in with us about 3 months ago. It has been okay, she and I are clashing personalities and cultures, and it has come up more often now that we share a similar space. She is a traditional Hispanic woman with a strong sense of decorum and family hierarchy. I am white, liberal in all ways and agnostic about most traditions, including and especially the need to obey elders. Before, out of consideration to my spouse and out of a belief in the "my house, my rules" adage, I used to watch what I said around her very carefully because we only visited her about once a month. But when my spouse asked if she could live with us, I said I was okay with it as long as I no longer had to walk on eggshells around her. My spouse agreed and told their mother that she needs to respect that we do and say things differently in our home than she may like. I don't know how her mother responded to that, but it never came up again. Last week, my 10-year-old and I were chatting while having breakfast while she was in the kitchen. We were goofing around and making bodily function sounds to each other. We are very mature, I know, but when I said, "I fart in your general direction," and made a loud raspberry sound at her, she was giggling like crazy. My mother-in-law slammed down her coffee mug and said in Spanish, "Don't you dare teach my granddaughter to be so disrespectful. I will not allow this kind of vulgarity in my home any longer." And I said, in English, I can understand Spanish but cannot speak it well, "This is my home. You don't get a say in how I interact with my kids or how any of us speak or act." She stormed away and now is not speaking to me. My spouse says I am the a-hole because I embarrassed her in front of our daughter and because I expected her to accept too much too quickly. They also say that I am being a little culturally insensitive and that I need to respect that Abuela will be deeply offended by how I spoke to her, so I need to apologize. and I also apologize for butchering that word. Anyway, but I think it was important for her to see that I would stand up for our interactions and myself, and also to stick to what we originally agreed on, that I won't be policed in my own home. So guys, in this case, is OP the a-hole or not? I would argue that he's definitely not the a-hole, because as he said, his house, his own rules. Anyway, let us know your opinion in the comments. And by the way, please also let me know if you enjoy r/mi the a-hole, because I think it's a great subreddit, especially to encourage discussion. And the last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for being mad? My mother-in-law stored a pie in my oven." This was from last Thanksgiving, but I was recently reminded of it, and I'm still wondering where other people stand on this. After Thanksgiving, we had a lot of leftovers, so we crammed everything into the fridge. Unbeknownst to me or my partner, my mother-in-law decided to put 2 leftover pies in our oven for storage, one of which had a plastic tray. They then left town the next day. A few days later, I went to make some food and preheated the oven, which upon smelling a strange smell discovered the burning pies and now dripping molten plastic all over my oven. I got quite mad at my mother-in-law for a few reasons, which started an argument with my husband as he is defending all these actions. Number 1, I've never heard of using an oven for storing food over multiple days, and I found it bizarre. Second, I said that even if that's normal, she should not put something that can melt like plastic in an oven ever. To which my husband responded, "It is my responsibility to check." Number 3, she should have told me or him that she had put it there, because if she was leaving, how would we know to look before it went bad? For whatever reason, this turned into a huge argument as I spent the next days scraping and burning off the melted plastic, and my husband continued to argue that keeping food in an oven is completely normal behavior and that I should have checked first. So, am I the a-hole for having these expectations/beliefs? And for thinking my kitchen will be the way I left it? Is it all my fault for not checking first, or did she drop the ball? Honestly, I would not have cared if it just burned food. It was the plastic that made it into a bigger deal. So guys, what would you say? A-hole or not a-hole? I've certainly never come across the idea before that an oven can be used as storage for food. But maybe I'm just too old school, who knows? Anyway guys, this has to be the last story for today. I hope you enjoyed the content. It was a little bit of a special Christmas episode, and my voice is still not 100% okay again, so please excuse me for that. Thank you so much for watching, and please, if you have any stories, especially JustNoMother-in-law, please feel free to post them over on Reddit on r/ripestories. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching.